We are made to live in relationship with each other. We're not created to live in isolation from each other. We were created to hold hands, to laugh, to know intimacy, to love. My name is David Woodall with the United Church of Canada, the Emsdale Pastoral Charge. Relationships empower us to live life. Those first halting, romantic, hormonal feelings we have for another person shapes us. Things that happen to others cause us to react. Matthew, the gospel writer, tells us that Jesus actually began his ministry after his cousin John was arrested. Relationships shape how our lives unfold. The cycles of life. The first week was birth. Last week was the age of discovery, the childhood and teenage years. This week we move into the broader experience of life. This age, which begins in our teenage years and goes on for who knows how many years, is broadly defined by the experience of relationships. You and I are inundated with labels of relationship. Child, parent, boyfriend, girlfriend, good friend, husband, wife, father, mother, uncle, aunt, grandparents, and the labels go on. And these labels help us to find and define our place in this world. Entering and leaving relationships are amongst the greatest and the worst times of our lives. The Bible puts it this way: let us love one another, for love comes from that deep spiritual place inside of us. Call it God, call it karma, call it Allah, whatever. Love comes from that deep spiritual place inside of us. Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they can have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. That's a minimum standard that we have in our Christian faith tradition, and I know that other faiths share the same standard. Relationships? How do we build them? Spend time with each other. You cannot know another person unless you spend time with them. How do we heal relationships? Be honest. Forgive. Let love, not revenge or outrage, rule the day. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has just died. He was the driving force behind the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the very first of its kind in the world. His idea was that people, politicians, activists from across the racial divide, could come before the commission. They could speak honestly about the terrible things they had done to each other and the terrible suffering they had endured. And this honesty was to be the beginning of reconciliation. Now, he was asked, would the mainly white politicians responsible for so much carnage and human suffering be able to speak freely and honestly and then walk away to continue their lives without fear of punishment or retribution? He said yes. And that's what happened. And that is why reconciliation actually happened and continues to happen to this day in South Africa. Rebuilding or healing a relationship is not about judgment. It is not about punishment. It's about forgiveness and letting love, not revenge or outrage, rule the day. You know, we live in a time when outrage and punishment, not forgiveness and reconciliation, rules our actions. And then we wonder why our jails are so full, why there is so much political and ideological and racial divisions. Spend time in love. Spend time with each other. Quite frankly, spend time with God. Nurture that spiritual place within you. We grow in love by loving each other. We grow in compassion by caring for each other. Faith, love, compassion looks like the love and the caring that we share with family and with friends and with strangers alike. We're all spiritual people. At one point in time or another, we've all been able to say, my heart soars when the one I love the most walks into the room, and my spirit is at peace. Relationships define and shape us. Relationships are based on truth, trust, and respect. There is a basic honesty that we share with each other. There's also a toughness about our strongest relationships. In some ways, relationships can be compared to a seaworthy vessel. On sunny, beautiful days, you will have really wonderful times in this relationship boat. But when it's stormy and blowy, that's when you want a good vessel. That's when you want a relationship that is strong and enduring. And sometimes this is exactly what we need to get us through whatever storm comes our way. When the world walks out, our friends walk in. The last thing any of us needs in a relationship is a relationship in which we have to be pleasant and nice all the time. There's no strength in that relationship. We want a relationship that allows us to be free, to be ourselves, not to find ourselves turned away, not to find ourselves unforgiven or judged or shut out. And in return, we treat all those that we are in relationship with in the same manner. Fair weather friends are just that, only there in fair weather. Now that's not to say that relationships are always easy or simple. They're not. And as we grow older, we come to understand that most relationships have many layers and contradictions. In the story of the red-green pony, Tommy dreams of finding a red and green pony. He said the pony was red and green, not in patches, but all over. He said to the pony, "You saw both colors at once," and that's how Tommy knew it wasn't real. "I know you aren't real," Tommy said to the pony, "because you're red and green all over. 2 colors all at the same time. That proves you're not real." And the red and green pony replied, "Well, you're pink all over and noisy all through. You're real." 2 things at once: layers and contradictions in relationships. Cliff Elliott writes, "They," this is the mysterious they in the world, "they certainly don't allow us to believe that anything can have 2 contradictory qualities at the same time, like the pony that was both red and green all over. But how much of life can be neatly divided into clean-cut categories? Can love, for example, be all pleasure and no pain? Isn't it some of each? Isn't it often both at the same time? Think of growing and changing. It's thrilling, but often it hurts too, doesn't it? Think of friendship. That's sharing, both joys and sorrow, laughing together and weeping together. Think of parenthood and having children. What joy that brings us, and what suffering and sacrifice too. In fact, I find it hard to think of any meaningful experience of life that is not a mixture of opposites, of pain and pleasure. Most of our life is defined by relationships. When we neglect them, we risk losing our identity. We are family. We're husband and wives, parents, grandparents, children, friends, good friends, even strangers. We live in relationship with each other. There's trust and truth and respect and honesty. Oh, and here's a final thought. I love you for not only what you are, but for what I am when I am with you. I love you not only for what you are making of yourself, but for what you are making of me. I love you for that part of me that you bring out. I love you for putting your hand into my heaped up heart and passing over all the foolish and frivolous and weak things that you cannot help dimly seeing there. For drawing out into the light all the beautiful and radiant qualities that no one else has looked quite deep enough to find. What great words. I love you not only for what you are, but for what I am when I am with you. We were not created to live in isolation from each other. We were created to hold hands, to laugh, to know intimacy, to love. And I'm glad that we're together. I'm glad that you are my friends. I hope that you find many more friends. Treasure your family, the one you're born into, and the ones that you create. God bless you and take care. Amen.